Hi everyone, it's day 40 of the Vendée Globe, and my guest today is Bauer Becking. Bauer's 30-year obsession, some might call it, with the ocean race has seen him compete 8 times, the last 4 as skipper. In 2017-18, he came so close to winning the ocean race, finding an extra gear in the second half of the race, which had us all on the edge of our seats. Of course, the final cliffhanger short leg was not quite to be, but I'm sure he's going to probably tell us he's going to return again for a record 9th time. Before I bring him in, let's have a quick look at the ocean race.
This race is probably the most epic thing you can do as a sailor.
We go to places where no one else would go.
That you're involved.
You are pushed to the limits without sleep in such harsh conditions. No one else on the planet gets to do that kind of stuff.
It's because I love to be on the ocean, being one with nature.
It's a 9-month race, it's 45,000 miles, and it doesn't stop. You know, it's 24/7.
Hey Bauer, how are you doing?
G'day, Conrad.
So I guess looking back at that, it brings back some great memories and maybe some not so great memories. Are you motivated and planning another one?
Yeah, well, we're working on it, but you know how it is. You can only start organizing once the money is there. But it's always, yeah. I love that race, so we will see what the near future is going to bring.
Brilliant, brilliant. So I can imagine you're following the Vendée fairly closely with interest in the IMOCA class as well. What are your thoughts so far?
Well, I think first off, heads off. It's. I think it's just amazing what these guys and girls are doing. I know what it is being there with a full crew, and I can just not imagine. And you know it yourself. But if you're there by yourself, I think it's yeah, it's a crazy place to be. And I don't want to be there by myself. So I know what they're going through, and probably even much harsher because they're by themselves. So in that sense, I think it's already a very interesting race to follow because yeah, just the mental strengths that must be just amazing, and I think that will be one of the strong points probably of the guy or girl who's going to win the race.
Yeah, very very much so. I was watching the repair that Charlie Dallin had to do to his foil. Actually there. I mean, he's got an engineering background. He's someone who is a is a sort of got yacht architecture background, and he's able to manufacture um, a piece of composite and then insert it into the foil case to repair his foil. It takes a huge amount of mental strength to make those sorts of changes at sea on your own.
Well, and I think as well when failure is quite high. We know composites, they normally like pretty nice warm temperatures, and they don't have warm temperatures over there. So it's just one of these things. When you start a project like that, you just have to keep pushing, and I think he did a fantastic job, and he's up and running again. So that's even better for himself.
Yeah, yeah. Now, as a fan, I guess of probably of one design. I mean, you might say you like the open class, but what are your thoughts on the foiling IMOCAs, given that they're now part of the ocean race going forward?
Well, I think the foiling class is fantastic because I think it's one of these things. I might have liked the one design concepts because it's always it has to do with raising the money. But just in general, development class, yeah, I always loved them, and I still love them because I think it's good for sailing in the long run. With regards to the ocean race, yeah, it's really a shame that the one design concept was falling through last time when they talked about it. I think it would have been a huge step forward, because I think a lot of teams, including myself, are very worried about just how you can survive in an IMOCA. We know the people sailing by themselves, they push their boats pretty hard as they can, but if all of a sudden you sail with a full crew, it's throttle down and see if you can just push your boat and your team as hard as possible. But it looks to be that they are pretty fragile, and that's of course that's a huge worry, especially if you go to a sponsor and you have to tell them all these kind of things. That's a tough one. But so I think in that sense it's a shame that we don't have a one design IMOCA for the ocean race, because that way they could have made the rig stronger, made the foils way strong, probably a little heavier boat, but who would have come around? And I think that's I will be amazed if some of the newer foilers will get around in the current status with a full crew.
Yeah, I mean, it's never mind, the challenges of hitting things in the water, as you say. The structures are very light in IMOCA. They've tried to keep the weight down, and as a result, there are, we're seeing in the race, some of the non-foiling boats, who are able to push a little bit harder, staying, very competitive.
Yeah, but I think one of the big issues is just the rig what they're currently having. It's a relatively old design, designed at the stages when there was no foils attached, no flying foils attached to the boats. And I think in that sense that is setting really the restraints on how strongly they can build their foils, because if the foils won't snap, then the rig will snap. So it's always trying to find that balance. I think that's probably a thing what the naval architects have been looking at. So, and as well, of course, there is some things in the water, but I think in general, if these boats are going fast and all of a sudden the huge acceleration, deceleration, I think the forces still on the foils will be massive, and I think that's probably a lot of times why they just snap. And like what I think I wrote in one of my comments, these guys and girls are probably 90% of the time they're downstairs, and all of a sudden you deaccelerate and you hear a big bang, you likely think you have hit something, but it might have just snapped as well. And so, because if you look at the Volvo Ocean race the last time and the race before, nobody broke rudders or the dagger boards, and we hit a lot of things as well, but probably as well because everything was a little bit more beefed up.
Yeah, definitely. So on that line, obviously the ocean race course is a very different course, both weather-wise. Do you think the foiling IMOCA 60s will thrive on the ocean race course, because you've got perhaps a little bit more reaching, perhaps some more upwind, downwind, rather than the sort of straight Southern Ocean? Although this year's Southern Ocean's been quite strange, but do you think the foiling class will do well on the ocean race course?
Well, I think they will potentially if they're strong enough, but I'm just really worried about their strengths, and that's why I think as well that you don't see a lot of teams. I think there's actually no team right now anymore working on a progressive ocean race project. So hopefully some of these IMOCA teams who are now sailing around the world or doing the Vendée, that they step in. So yeah, it will be a tough one, I think, to get them around the world.
So let's have a quick look at the racetrack currently. People have been saying and commenting that the weather has been a little bit, strange this time round.
I think we should remember it's a La Nina year, so I think that has impact just in general. Even that I'm not a really guru at that. Yeah. But I think that has a huge impact, because compared to the last time we did the Volvo Ocean race, they have had relatively light areas. So in a way, they are very fortunate. Still, people should realize that 20, 30 knots in the Southern Ocean feels like probably 40 knots, 45 knots up in the northern or a little bit more higher latitudes than where they are. But the intensity of the breeze is so high. But they haven't had days of 40 to 50 knots. And I think in that sense, I'm actually quite happy, because yeah, you can just not imagine what they will go through then.
No, that's right. If we look at the situation 4 years ago, both Alex and Armel were about 6.5 days ahead of the current fleet. So it's an interesting point you're making there about the sort of, is it El Nino or La Nina? I don't know which.
La Nina. I think it's a La
Nina.
Nina. Yeah.
But it's clearly, the forecast in the Southern Ocean, in the Indian Ocean at the moment, is still, quite dominated with high pressure, low pressures. Some of them quite far below the ice gate. If we have a quick look at the weather forecast, I've just drawn in a few of the fronts. This was this morning. What do you think these ice limits are sort of, stopping the flow of the race in the Southern Ocean?
I think it's always like when you have limits, they always restrict you in a way. But I think safety first, especially in this race. So in that sense, I think I think they're all very happy that the ice limits are there, and rather sail a little bit lighter at, and that they have to really push themselves. But I'm actually quite amazed that not a lot of people pushing closer to the limits, pushing it harder south, because I think like all the time, and I think that's probably my experience as well, just if you are 1 degree further south, you just have a little bit more pressure. It's very often the case like that. And even if the map doesn't show it, there is just some way, somehow, that always there's 1 or 2 knots more than what the chart is saying. So, but they have been sailing quite conservative. If this would have been a fully crewed race, I think they would have been zigzagging very close to the ice gate all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we all remember watching you guys in the south and just jibing all the time, just staying as close to the gate as possible. And in fact, in the virtual race, that seems to happen more, with everyone preferring to be just as close to the limit as possible. With looking back at your ocean racing career, which in terms of the ocean race itself, which race really stands out for you? You've obviously got 8 to choose from, but would the last race be your favourite?
Like I always say, the first one was, of course, there my dream came true. So that's a very special one. Then I sailed one with Winston, which was a very special one because I married my wife in Auckland. So that has a complete different aspect to it. But the last race was, I think was in a way fantastic, because the competition was amazing. We made a nice comeback, but as well the conditions were just hammering. I think every leg we had so much breeze, and it was the most windy race I've ever did. So I think that brings a complete different aspect, and that's what I'm saying. Like if the IMOCA teams now had this kind of conditions what we had last time, I would have been sailing probably at 30 north or 30 south instead.
Okay, well, that's been brilliant to catch up. Thanks so much for your time today. I really, good luck with finding the money, which is always, the challenge with these projects. And it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next year with the switch to the IMOCA class, and hopefully a few of those boats will start to align themselves with the race. But I hope we get a chance to catch up again further down track, maybe in the Atlantic when we're going back up there. You'd have to let us know when you're 65 has got round them. But really, really nice to catch up with you. So hopefully have a good Christmas, and we'll catch up again soon.
Same to you, and good start at the beginning. 21, right. The new year.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right, Bo. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye-bye. So that was Bauer Becking, Ocean Race legendary skipper, who will no doubt be watching the performance of the new foiling IMOCAs with interest. Certainly share his concerns about the fragility of the IMOCA boat and whether they would withstand a full crew pushing hard in the ocean race itself. Thanks again for watching, and look forward to catching up again on Monday. Cheers. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.